Most kitchen tricks you find online are nonsense dressed up as wisdom. A pinch of baking soda that does nothing. A folding technique that makes no measurable difference. Advice repeated so many times it feels true, regardless of whether anyone ever tested it. This video is not that. Here is one right now before you decide whether to trust anything else in this video. If your rice keeps turning out either mushy or undercooked, add a single ice cube to the pot right before it starts boiling. The sudden temperature drop slows the starch gelatinization just enough to let the grains cook through evenly before the outside overcooks. Japanese rice cooks have used this exact trick for generations, long before anyone could explain the starch chemistry behind it. Try it the next time you cook rice. It works. 6 tricks. Trick 3 sounds completely wrong until you understand why it isn't. Trick 6 is the one professional Japanese chefs use that almost no home cook in the West has ever heard of. Japanese culinary tradition treats cooking less as approximate art and more as exact craft. The concept of shokunin, the relentless dedication to mastering a skill through attention to small technical detail, runs through professional kitchens in Japan at every level, from a 3-star restaurant to a home cook who has made the same dish for 40 years. The tricks that survive generations of that kind of scrutiny tend to actually work because they have been tested by people whose entire professional identity depended on getting the detail right. The first trick is the ice cube in rice, already demonstrated. Move straight to the second. Salt your pasta water like it's seawater, but salt it with the flame off. Everyone knows to salt pasta water. Almost no one salts it before the water is boiling, because conventional wisdom says the timing doesn't matter. It does. Salt added to water that is already at a rolling boil creates localized pockets of intense turbulence around each granule as it dissolves, which can pit and damage the surface of a pot over years, and, more relevantly to your dinner, causes uneven dissolution that leaves the water inconsistently salted for the first 30 seconds. Salt added to cold or lukewarm water before the flame is turned on dissolves completely and evenly as the water heats. The pasta cooks in water that is uniformly seasoned from the first minute rather than gradually becoming so. The difference is small in any single dish. Across a lifetime of pasta, it adds up to consistently better seasoned pasta with zero extra effort. The third trick, the one that sounds completely wrong. Add a splash of cold water to your pan when stir-frying, not oil. This runs against everything Western cooking wisdom teaches. Water and hot oil seem like a dangerous combination, and the instinct is always to add more oil when a stir-fry starts sticking or looking dry. But a small splash of cold water, a tablespoon, added quickly and followed immediately by a vigorous toss of the pan, does something oil cannot. It flash steams on contact with the hot surface, lifting the fond, the browned stuck bits, off the pan and back into the dish, while simultaneously creating a burst of steam that finishes cooking dense vegetables through without further browning the exterior. Japanese wok and pan cooking uses this technique constantly, specifically because it solves the problem that adding more oil creates, a greasier dish that still hasn't released the stuck flavor sitting on the pan surface. 1 tablespoon of water, added at the exact moment things start sticking, tossed hard for 5 seconds. It is not dangerous done this way. It is precise. The fourth trick is for anyone who has ever produced a rubbery, overcooked piece of fish. Salt fish 20 minutes before cooking it, then pat it completely dry. Most people either don't salt fish in advance at all, or they salt it right before it hits the pan, which does almost nothing. Salting fish 20 minutes ahead draws moisture to the surface through osmosis, moisture that then needs to be patted away completely with a paper towel before cooking. What remains is fish with a firmer, more concentrated texture and a surface dry enough to sear properly rather than steam in its own released liquid. The Japanese technique of shiojime, literally salt tightening, is standard practice for any fish destined for a hot pan or grill, and it is the single biggest reason restaurant fish has a texture home-cooked fish rarely achieves. 20 minutes. Salt, wait, pat dry, then cook. The fifth trick solves a problem almost everyone has and almost no one has a good answer for. Rescue oversalted soup or broth with a raw potato, not more water. Adding water to fix an oversalted dish dilutes the flavor along with the salt, leaving something watery and bland. A raw, peeled potato added to a simmering, oversalted soup or broth, left in for 15 to 20 minutes, absorbs excess salt through the potato's starch structure without significantly diluting the other flavors. Remove the potato before serving. It has done its job and absorbed what it needed to absorb. This technique has been used in Japanese kitchens for generations, specifically because it corrects a mistake without creating a new one. Keep a spare potato in the kitchen for exactly this purpose. The sixth trick, the professional one almost no Western home cook has heard of. Rest your knife blade against your finger, not the food, when slicing. This sounds like the opposite of what you'd expect to hear, but professional Japanese chefs are trained to guide the flat of the blade lightly against the knuckle of the bent index finger of the hand holding the food. Not gripping the food tightly, but curling the fingers under and using the knuckle as a moving guide rail for the blade. The knife never actually touches the fingertip. It rides against the knuckle, which controls the thickness and consistency of every slice without the cutting hand needing to watch each individual cut. This is the difference between amateur knife work, inconsistent slices, constant visual checking, and professional knife work, where every piece comes out the same thickness without conscious effort. It takes practice to feel natural. It is worth every minute of that practice. 6 tricks. None of them require new equipment. All of them are testable tonight. An ice cube for rice that cooks evenly, salt added before the boil for pasta water seasoned from the first minute, cold water, not oil, for a stir-fry that releases its flavor without drowning in grease, salt and dry fish 20 minutes ahead for a sear instead of a steam, a raw potato that rescues an oversalted soup without watering it down, and a knuckle that guides a knife into consistent, even slices without needing to watch every cut. Each one works for a specific, explainable reason. None of them are folklore. All of them survive the same scrutiny that generations of Japanese cooks, professional and home cooks alike, have applied to every technique passed down to the next kitchen. Which one are you testing tonight? Pick one, try it, and come back and tell us in the comments whether it worked the way this video said it would. That is the only kind of comment this video actually wants, not which one you liked the sound of, but which one you tried and what happened. I will see you in the next one.